Have you ever wondered what happens when you wander around Hoenn with no Pokemon? Well, let's say some strange things happen, and we'll show you in a moment. Having covered the obscurities of Gen 1 and Gen 2, in this video we'll take a look at the secrets and glitches of Gen 3, and believe it or not, there are a ton of them. And if you stay until the end, you'll learn the true reason behind the staircase blocked by trees in Sootopolis City, which has haunted us all since childhood. So sit back and enjoy the 9 obscure Pokemon Gen 3 facts that you didn't know. Number 1. The 4 Towers. The Darkness Tower, Red Tower, Black Iron Tower, and Final Tower. You've probably never heard about these locations, and for a good reason. But to understand why, we first need to take a look at ribbons. Yep, ribbons. Ribbons were a new feature added in Gen 3, awarded from the Pokemon Contest minigame, defeating the Elite Four or winning a certain amount of times in the Battle Tower. However, as unbelievably as it sounds, there are 64 unobtainable ribbons within the game's data. By their names, we can clearly see that Game Freak was planning to distribute many of these ribbons at real-world tournaments events for up to 3 years of the game's release date. And it's actually not even known if any of these ribbons were given out at any of these events. But the most mysterious of those ribbons are the so-called Tower ribbons. These ribbons hint at the existence of the areas called the Darkness Tower, the Red Tower, the Black Iron Tower, and the Final Tower. As cool as those names sound, these towers aren't located or even mentioned in any other Pokemon game, so it seems like they were scrapped by Game Freak in the development. Number 2. The Wrestler from Quinty. Speaking of unused game data in Gen 3 games, there are multiple odd overworld sprites which are never seen in the game. Among them, there's a sprite of the Wrestler from Quinty, which is Game Freak's 1989 debut game, internationally known as Mendel Palace. The sprite in the Pokemon games is almost identical to the one in Quinty, although compared to the original, it's stretched and weirdly colored. Why is it in the game? Nobody knows. But the idea of a Pokemon game randomly having a sprite of a stretched wrestler from another game is hilarious. Another unused sprite set shows the player bunny hopping on the front wheel with the acro bike. So although you can only bunny hop on your back wheel in the game, it looks like there was an idea for more acrobatic tricks in the development. Imagine how cool it would be if the games had a competition in bike tricks or possibly a wrestling match which could award the players the hidden ribbons. Number 3. The Question Mark Pokemon. Now, continuing with the weird stuff, wandering around Hoenn with no Pokemon in the party makes some unexpected things happen. As you know, the game actually doesn't allow the player to leave Little Root Town unless they have triggered the Professor Birch cutscene and picked a starter. The only way to actually leave the town is to use cheats. The first thing you can see as you leave Little Root is Professor Birch and Poochyena being stuck in a ledge, waiting for the cutscene to be triggered. Poor Professor Birch will remain there with the Poochyena forever, or at least while you are taking your time walking around Little Root. What happens when you encounter a wild Pokemon, you might ask? Since you have no Pokemon and the game forces you to throw something out, you'll use the Question Mark Pokemon. We called it Question Mark because it uses the sprite of a question mark, which can be found as a placeholder for the undiscovered Pokemon in your Pokedex. This Pokemon doesn't have any stats, moves, name, ability, is supposedly obtained in trade somehow, and faints immediately after an action in battle. When you try going to a Pokemon Center and talking to Nurse Joy, the game will show that you have 6 Pokeballs, as well as more Pokeballs appearing randomly around the Pokemon Center. The last thing you can do is to use a TM, but since you don't have any Pokemon in your party, the game just displays the cruel and ominous message, there is no Pokemon. Number 4. The Mirage Island. There's a lower chance of you encountering the Mirage Island than it is to encounter a shiny Pokemon, but let's first explain what the Mirage Island is. It's an island located on Route 130, but only under specific conditions. Every day, a random number between 0 and 65,535 will be generated, and if this number matches the first 2 bytes of the personality value of any Pokemon in your party, then Mirage Island will appear. This means, in less nerdy terms, that the chance of the island appearing is 1 in 65,536 if you have a single Pokemon in your party, and 1 in 10,923 if you have a full party. Luckily, in Pacific Log Town, there's a man who'll tell you whether the Mirage Island is visible, so you can change your party around without needing to surf there every time. But why is this island so hard to reach? What rewards are waiting for you there? There are only 2 things on the island. The first being a wild Wynot, which range from level 5 to level 50. Interestingly enough, this is the only location you can actually catch Wynot, besides hatching it from an egg. The second thing on the island is a tree, where the one and only Lychee Berry in the game can be picked. The Lychee Berry is the best berry for Pokeblocks, to boost your Pokemon performance in contests or to increase Pokemon attack in battle. So, if you aren't looking for any of those, bothering with the Mirage Island probably isn't worth it. Number 5. The Secrets of Moss Deep Space Center. In Pokemon Emerald, you can find a space center with a giant rocket standing right behind it in Moss Deep City. From there, rockets are sent into space, but the specifics of their mission are secret and never revealed in the game. On the first floor of the center, you'll find an interesting scientist. This scientist will tell you how many rocket launches have been successful so far, which directly translates to how many real weeks of play in the game have passed. When the number hits 100, the player will be allowed to take a flight to space and trigger an encounter with Jirachi. Sounds too good to be true? Well, because it is. Although the scientist counting the launches is real, the encounter with Jirachi is actually just a fake rumor made up by the community. Disappointing, right? Then what about the white rock located right in front of the center, you might ask? The rock that looks absurdly out of place and will not budge no matter what? Well, the meaning of the white rock is purely symbolic, as it represents the wishes of the people working in the center for the rockets to fly safely. Number 6. Not every cable car ride to Mount Chimney is the same. Everyone remembers their first cable car ride in Pokemon games, as it was such a cool cutscene for that day's Pokemon standards. But some people might have seen something interesting as they went up the mountain. There is a 1 in 64 chance for you to see a hiker, picnicker, or a camper climbing up Mount Chimney as you ride in the cable car. Are you one of the lucky ones that saw one of them struggling to climb up the volcano? Let us know in the comments. Number 7. A thing you have probably missed while sailing around Hoenn. After entering the Hall of Fame, the SS ticket for SS title can be obtained, and many of you probably have obtained the ticket. The ship takes you from Lily Cove City to Slateport City and vice versa, and you can battle a few trainers or sleep during the sail. The thing that many people miss is that if the ship is currently on one of the routes 132, 133, or 134, the player can look out of the windows of the ship. What you'll see is a ship peacefully sailing across the ocean of Hoenn. Pretty cool, right? Number 8. Wally can mess up his first attempt to catch Pokemon. As you know, in the Pokemon capture tutorial in the Gen 3 Hoenn games, you watch Wally catching wild Ralts. He first hits Ralt with Tackle twice, using his Zigzagoon, and then goes on to throw a Pokeball at it. Well, it is possible for Wally to go a bit overboard and knock out the Ralt instead of catching it under certain circumstances. This can only happen if the Zigzagoon is generated with 11 attack, and the wild Ralt has a nature that lowers defense, an IV of 3 or less in HP, and 5 or less in defense. The actual chance of this happening is only around 0.01%. Sadly, since this is an unexpected outcome, the game continues normally, as if the Ralts were caught. Number 9. The blocked off staircase in Sootopolis City. The nightmare of every kid that went into the first house in the southeast of Sootopolis City, the inaccessible staircase. It's blocked by 3 trees and doesn't unlock at any point in the game, and even if you turn on the cheat and walk right through the trees, there is no warp point in the tile. So what is the reason behind this staircase? As you might expect, this staircase was supposed to be something like an entrance for a Nintendo event. More specifically, it should have been accessible by the Nintendo e-reader, which was an add-on made for GBA, and would activate as you swipe a card through it. The thing is, the Nintendo e-reader was discontinued in early 2004, while Pokemon Emerald was released in late 2004. So why did Game Freak put 3 trees there to block the staircase instead of deleting the staircase itself? Well, who knows? Maybe it's there only to bother us as it stares with its 3-treeness, mocking us as we're trying to catch them all. And that's it for our list of obscure facts in Pokemon Gen 3 that you now know. Did you know any of these facts before watching the video? Which ones did we miss? Feel free to let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out these videos of even more obscure facts and have a great one.